Hello traders and investors, welcome back to the Trend Trader channel. So once again, we're gonna be looking at a couple of charts. In this video, we'll be covering mostly the American market, either the New York Security Exchange or Nasdaq. But there are some South African companies or JSE companies that we will cover. We do have timestamps for all the charts or the companies that we will cover. So if there's something in particular that you're interested in, you can use the timestamp to just browse to that particular chart that you're interested in. And before we start, I would like to ask those who haven't subscribed to please consider subscribing. And if you find value in this video, please smash that like button. As always, if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them in the comment section. Now we are looking at the chart of Nasdaq, which is the US 100 index. We know that the US has been in a bear market last year, even though there were some attempt for the Nasdaq to start trading above the key level. Even just before the end of 2022, it did attempt, but it failed. As we see that the Nasdaq, it started to pull back. But something that you need to notice is that this lower wasn't lower than this low. So then this started to indicate that the sellers are running out of steam because they failed to push the price further down in there. So that was a positive thing. So now we see that Nasdaq, at this moment we are looking at the daily time frame. Remember, it is important to check the daily to check the time frame of which the market we are looking at it, because depending on the time frame we will be seeing different things. So on the daily time frame, we can see that Nasdaq is once again is trying to trade above this key level. So this is a level of interest that we are noting. We are looking to see what is going to happen here. So if Nasdaq begin to trade above this level, then we will begin initiating long position on Nasdaq. You can trade Nasdaq on its own, or you can trade an ETF that tracks Nasdaq, and then you can just have a stop loss just below this last candle before it crossed above this level. So that is something that's a potential trade that we are looking at. And remember, I said that you can use an ETF. So there's this InvestCo QQQ ETF. If you're an Easy Equities investor, this ETF is also available on Easy Equities in the USD account. As you can see, this ETF, it tracks Nasdaq. So we also see the similar price. But remember, this is an ETF that tracks Nasdaq. So from time to time, the ETF will be a bit behind on what is happening on the Nasdaq itself. But it is a product that is available that investors and traders can use. And the nice thing about it, it is a liquid ETF. You can see the average trade volume there. It's about 50 million ETFs that are traded on a daily basis. So you don't have to worry about liquidity. And the people that are interested in dividend, you can see that every once in a while the ETF make dividend distributions in there. So then if you buy this ETF, you can also expect to receive a bit of distribution. You can see that in December they paid about 65 cents. Remember, this is American cent, and then so basically they pay somewhere around 60 cents per distribution. That is a gross distribution. Remember that you still need to pay tax. So I think now we've already said a lot about Nasdaq. We're starting to see similar thing. Remember, in our last video we mentioned that S&P 500 was trying to break above this trend line. So now we see we've got this confirmation. We can see that S&P 500 is above this trend line. It is also above this key moving average. Remember, you can set the moving average to any parameters. So based on our parameters, we can see that it is now trading above this level. So now we can start to look to initiate a long position here as well, and also having a stop loss in there. You can see in the past 2 days there has been an accumulation on this ETF, and you can see the liquidity here. It's over 2 billion ETFs that are traded on a daily basis. So in terms of liquidity, this is something that a person can easily trade in and out without worrying about being stuck in this. So this is, well, this is not an ETF, this is the index itself. Then we can look at the ETF that tracks the S&P 500. So there is this ETF, it is the SPDR or the SPY ETF as it is called. You can see that it also trades between 50 and 100 million ETFs there. Once again, same thing with the investor QQQ ETF. We can see that they will see the same price action as the market that it is tracking. So based on this, we can already see that there are some tradable opportunities. Once again, this also pays quarterly distributions in there for the investors that are interested in receiving dividends or something like that. You can see it pays about $1.78. Don't just look at the dollar value. You can see the price here, it's about 400 US dollars compared to the Nasdaq. It's about $288. So the dividend yield of each company, it's better to compare based on the dividend yield rather than to look at the dollar value. But yes, I agree that $1.50 is much greater than 60 cents, but also keep in mind that it costs around 400 US dollars as opposed to that $288. So basically, in summary, we can see that there's a change in trend between the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq, and maybe that can lead into a potential bull market. So we will be keeping an eye in those markets. Then now we spoke a bit about Bitcoin. Previously we mentioned that Bitcoin, it came above this level, so there was this nice consolidation just near that area of value before the price of Bitcoin broke above this level. And last week Bitcoin attempted to trade above 23,000 US dollar per coin. So at this moment we can see that Bitcoin is attempting to start a bull market. 23,000 is still closer to the area of value, even though the gap is a bit wide. It would have been better to buy when that breakout happened, but you can still buy and set a stop loss just below this key moving average. So at this moment we are bullish on Bitcoin. We will be looking at long setups to buy and accumulate Bitcoins from this particular level. Technically it looks good. There isn't much there's no fundamental thing you can say about cryptocurrencies, because most of them, they don't have, well, in fact all of them, they don't have intrinsic value. It's just a speculative asset or a speculative security. It is a similar pattern that we see on Ethereum. We see that it is now trading above this key level. So if you don't have a position yet, you can wait for a break above this 1.7, so that when it breaks above this level, you can enter, maybe have a stop somewhere just around 1,600 US dollars per Ethereum coin or token, whatever it is called. So this is something that we are looking at this moment. And also we did mention that we had interest in Polygon, which is a Matic, but you can see now it is moving sideways. It is not moving as fast as compared to other coins. Another coin that we like that has worked not necessarily perfectly. So if you look at this previous setup, it is similar to what we see with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there was that pullback before the market it came and reclaimed this level. Since it reclaimed this level, it has moved from just below $72 to almost about $90. So whenever we trade using technical analysis, we are looking at these repetitive patterns. It's not about the security itself. Yes, there are things that can be said about the security in terms of the fundamental analysis aspect, or if it's a security that has intrinsic value such as stocks. But also when you look at the technical analysis, there are a couple of things that we want to look at. So before we go far, in South Africa we want to talk about Sasol. So Sasol is a stock that it's been on our radar for quite a while now. As you can see, it has been trading below this key level here. So just in the past few weeks, it sort of bottomed there somewhere just below 260 rand per share, and then it is trying to reclaim this level. So this is an area of interest. We are waiting to see how Sasol is going to behave around this level. So Sasol can break above this level and continue to trade higher, which will be great. But the other potential scenarios that Sasol failed to trade above this level, maybe it come back to retest this level. We are not predicting which direction Sasol is going to take. At this moment, we are just sitting on the sideline waiting to see what happens. If it goes low, we don't have a position, so we're not gonna lose anything. But if it starts to trade above this level, then we're gonna start looking at long positions to initiate a long position. Remember, last year Sasol paid a dividend after a long time, since the business has been sort of unprofitable. But the share price, even though the business was unprofitable, remember that there was that nice ride in the share price there, coming all the way to about 140. I know that people that bought Sasol just around 20 rand per share. So this nice movement upward, you can see that initially they reported growing earnings, then the earnings they started to shrink in the next 12 months where they were reporting. But the last report, it came with a nice dividend there, but the share price then at that time was declining. So now we're waiting to see what is going to happen here. But note that this key moving average is still declining in there, so we are not in a rush in buying Sasol. There's nothing wrong with the business, but there are better setups elsewhere. So we're not going to just dwell on a company based on the fact that maybe you want or maybe you like that particular company. Moving forward, we can then go back to some of the American companies that we have been trading lately. One of those companies is Taiwan Semiconductor. We do have a position in here. Fortunately, we bought the stock as it came to cross above this level, and you can see that there was that nice big gap. So we did benefit from this gap because that was a nice price jump. You can see that it was accompanied by a large surge in volume there when it happened, and since then the stock has risen from somewhere around $80 per share to about $95 per share. We believe that this is just the beginning of the bull market for this particular company. Remember, the stock market, it's a place where it's different companies. The stock market itself might not be in a bull market, but individual companies, they might be in their own bull market. We saw that some of the Chinese companies have performed well in the past. As you can see that even Alibaba, it broke above this level, and it also had that nice gap in there with a surge in volume as it happened, and then it has been moving up there. So yes, we do have a position in that Taiwan Semiconductor. We do have a position in Alibaba, but there are other companies, whether not necessarily in China. As you can see, there's this Crane Share Trust ETF, which tracks the China technology companies. We saw that it broke above this level around November. We took a position, so we've been holding this ETF for quite some time now. The thing is with the ETFs, yes, they can move. There's a possibility to make money, but an ETF is not going to move as fast as an individual company, because in an ETF there are all these, it's a blend of companies, the good performing companies, and some of the companies are not performing great. So the companies that are not performing well, they can potentially drag the ETF lower. So it is important that whenever we see an ETF that is moving in a certain direction, then we go a bit deeper into that ETF, trying to find out which companies are inside that ETF, and then we pick the winners, and then we forget about the losers. The losers will always catch up, but remember, in the market we are there to make money. we are not there to be sympathetic to the individual companies, especially the companies that are not performing well. One of the ETF that caught our attention, we don't have a position yet, is the communication services ETF. It's an American ETF. The share code is XLC. You can buy the ETF. Well, I don't want to say you can buy it on Easy Equities, because if you don't find it, then what happens? We have an account with Easy Equities and eToro, so we buy the securities wherever we find them. As you can see, the XLC ETF, or the communications ETF, it is starting to turn up nicely there. It is turning positive. It is also an ETF that pays quarterly distributions. So at this moment, we can see that, okay, it's in a nice buying opportunity. You can see in the past 3 days, there's been a consolidation with 2 days, the price, or not the price, the buyers, we see a large volume there in those 2 out of those 3 days. So we are happy with this particular setup. It is not necessarily the best performing ETF at the moment. Remember that the XLE ETF, which is the energy ETF, for the whole of 2022, it managed to hold the fort, while some of the ETFs were not performing in a good manner. And then lastly, because we see this video starting to get a bit longer, we were never really interested in Meta platforms. Not that we have a problem with the Meta platform itself, but you can see that the share price was on a downtrend with a couple of gaps there happening whenever they were reporting result. Also keep in mind that some of the tech companies, they are retrenching, they are cutting off some jobs, but that is something else. So you can see that Meta platforms, once again, it is coming to this level. For the past 3 days, there's been that nice consolidation in there. We do have a position now on Meta platform, because we took the position I think on Friday. So now we are waiting to see. I think we bought Meta platforms as soon as it broke above this small consolidation level in there. So we caught this breakout. Once the stock trade above this level, then we will add some more shares on Meta platforms, in anticipation that the share price is going to rise up there. But if the share price then it starts to pull back, it's not a big deal. We have a stop loss. We are used to taking a stop loss. It is an important risk management tool for us. We can emotionally handle that small loss, as long as it remains a small loss. Another company that is on the radar is Microsoft. At this moment, okay, we don't have a position on Microsoft, but also we'll show you something now why we don't have a position on Microsoft yet. And then we had a video previously where we were covering Nvidia Corporation. As you can see now, Nvidia is trying to break above this resistance level. It is already trading above that key level. I think we made a video when Nvidia was attempting to break above this level, even though there was that pullback, and then in the past weeks it came back to reclaim this level again. You can see now the price is around 191 or 192 US dollar per share, which is just above this trend line that we drew. You shouldn't worry yourself about drawing a perfect trend line. You should be able to make a decision with using minimal information that is available to you. So if you try to be a perfectionist in the market, things might not work great for you. So we took a position as it broke somewhere around 160. Then yesterday we added as it attempted to trade above 192. So we do have a position on Nvidia Corporation. So we are going to see how this it is going to perform in the next coming weeks. So now what I wanted to show you is that there's this Twitter account, Earnings Whisper, where they talk about all the companies that are going to be releasing results in the upcoming weeks. I mentioned that we noted that there's Microsoft, even though we don't have a position on Microsoft yet. So keep in mind that whenever the earnings are coming for any particular company, depending on how the market interprets those results as good or bad, that can result in volatility. Now, volatility is not a bad thing, because we need volatility in order for the share price to move. But depending on where you are at, if you are long, or meaning if you have bought something and then maybe the market perceive the information as negative, the share price can drop, and then you can start to see losses in your position. But if the market interpret the information as positive and the people start buying, then the share price can go up, making you money. So anything is possible whenever earnings are concerned. So it is something that you need to keep in mind. But we don't look at the earnings report and then make a decision on that. Technically, Microsoft has not met our buy criteria at the moment, but there are a lot of companies, interesting companies, that will be looking forward to their results, such as Johnson & Johnson. Halliburton is an energy company that did well last year. Lockheed Martin, it's in the security, well, it's a weapon manufacturing company, so we know the Ukraine-Russian war is going on in there, so this is one of the company that is benefiting in that. Similar to Raytheon Technology, it is also another military contractor. 3M is a company that has paid dividend for a long time, but the share price is a bit depressed at the moment, but we just want to see if this company is still going to be able to pay a dividend and even increase that dividend. Boeing company, it's a company that has done great in the past few months. We know most people, they love Tesla. The share price going towards the end of December was under pressure, but since the beginning of 2023, the share price has surged above 30%. If you look at it, at that it was trading somewhere around $100 per share. Now it is somewhere around $140 per share. We've got this pharmaceutical company. This is one of the companies, FCM or FXM, Freeport. It benefited when there was that shipping crisis, but the shipping crisis is no longer there. So the company share price is starting to experience some challenges. Whether the business itself is still doing well, we will see once they come out with those results. ADP and Hess Corp are companies that have done well. We've had some positions on our eToro account, so it's some of the companies that have performed well in the past. We are going to see what is going to happen. ADP is still a leader in the market in terms of share price. It is still moving in the right direction. Intel is another chip manufacturer or chip company, but we already have a position on Nvidia and we don't like Intel chart, so we're not interested in that. Visa and MasterCard are some of the companies that also consistently pay dividend, so maybe people will be interested in those dividends. Chevron, another energy company that did well in 2022, so we are going to see if the business still have some of those large profit that they were reporting previously. And Colgate Palmolive, it's a company, it's a household name. It's one of those companies similar to 3M that pays a nice consistent dividends. So there are so many things that can happen in the market, but based on what we shared on the charts, that is what we are trading. Then we are going to see how these companies are going to perform this week, so that we can see if they can provide us with trading or investing opportunities in future. So that's it for today. Once again, for those that haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. And if you found value in this video, please make sure that you smash that like button. We will see you in the next video.